Hey everyone, hope Adobe Summit's great. Welcome to the Trust Panel brought to you by PwC. I'm joined here by some of my great friends at PwC, people that I really admire, most importantly, that I trust. We work together very closely on various activities in the market and delivering great solutions for our clients. And what we wanted to talk about today is really the impact of trust on marketing and on great customer experiences, the ideas of bringing personalization at scale. The good news is it really fits well into the PwC perspective too, in terms of what we think is important in the market right now, what we're hearing from our clients. Case in point, we just released our brand new 2022 CEO Pulse Survey. And guess what the number one metric is that CEOs are looking at when measuring their long-term strategy success? It's customer satisfaction. And I would contend that for there to be a satisfactory level of customer satisfaction, an enterprise must establish a relationship that is rooted in trust. So the path that we're going to take here in this panel is we're going to actually just bust some myths here today. So first, I want to ask my dear friend Caitlin to comment on the following myth, and that is that trust is a purely personal phenomenon. It's about how two people interact with each other, but it's not really about enterprises. So forget about my whole intro. That really doesn't play in the enterprise space. What say you, Caitlin?
Weak. I would say that's weak. I think that's taking the back seat in your relationship with your customer. If we think about, we put our consumer hat on, we are living in an era of choice. We are looking and expect from brands consistency, predictability, like expectations are super high. And as marketers, our brand's job is to take a hold of that responsibility and build trust at every interaction, right? Content and experiences are evolving in new ways. How we consume information is changing. Now, with the deprecation of third-party cookies, brands are having to...
Cookies? Did you say cookies?
I did. Look at that cookie monster. But brands finally, with going away of third-party cookies, have to lean into their first-party data strategy. And what that really means is that they have to build interactions and value with their customers. They have to create a value exchange for people to give them information. So it's really important to use data and insights to understand more about our customers, right, from a marketing perspective, and then use that data as fuel to create holistic ecosystems that are connected and connecting a brand experience.
I couldn't agree more with what you just mentioned, right? Trust is defined and earned in different ways on an individual level. So brands have an opportunity to drive this brand messaging and tell a consistent story, you know what I mean, across all channels and digital properties that they own. So as consumers begin to consistently navigate the buying journey, relevant and personalized experiences, they're driven by this first-party data strategy that now has a significant emphasis on this connected consumer experience. But brands must not only go after the shiny new object and forget the fundamentals, right? There's this element of simple things such as just trust marks, visible customer reviews and feedback, transparency and transaction costs, and robust product detail information with visual imagery that can really help gain trust throughout the buying journey.
Yeah, totally.
But it's not all about, we don't want to dismiss person-to-person trust either, though, right, Naresh? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Trust is something personal to an individual. However, business actions can have significant influence over building trust between the consumers and the brands, right? And action can be like as simple as clear communication, relevant and consistent messaging, or even honoring the consent and preferences as consumers engage with your brand. May sound so simple and obvious, but we know usually such practices are not always adopted very well by the businesses. And that can be due to a host of factors, including gaps in the current tech stack, or data silos that limit the ability to create a holistic view of the consumers and result in a disconnected customer experience. Another thing that trust can have a significant impact on the business outcomes. The survey results shows that almost half of consumers that have started or increased purchasing from a company because they trust it, and 33% have paid a premium for trust. So, in my view, business can take small steps using tech and data and contribute to elevate consumer trust in your brand.
Does it matter throughout the whole cycle, or is it really just, okay, once they're in, I can tap the brake, the customer thing, or the trust thing doesn't matter quite as much anymore? What do you say, my friend
No.
Michael?
Like, no,
No?
I couldn't
Okay.
disagree with that. That's just like so blasphemous to me, right? And in fact,
I figured you're a commerce guy, so you have something to say about
exactly. In
this.
fact, this is when the magic really happens. I mean, think about it. Could you imagine purchasing something and literally having no clue of when you'll receive the product, how to return it, or even being charged for something, and not being able to have any visibility and opportunity to engage with someone? Like, that doesn't happen anymore. Like, that is like totally old, right? And we're at this point now where, companies must really demonstrate clear and consistent communication, as well as consistent experiences pre and post purchase to capture and maintain trust.
I am stunned with how few companies have a chief experience officer in place who isn't someone, an individual, but also an organization who is charged with getting the right experience orchestrated throughout the customer lifecycle. One of the reasons, from an organizational point of view, is I think a lot of people think that trust is the domain of legal, IT. It's all about privacy compliance. It's about cyber. Is it more than that? Should marketing play a role? The myth is not. It's not really about marketing. It's really an IT thing. This trust.
I think I'll jump in on that because I think the game has significantly changed around trust. Trust is something that an entire organization needs to embody, and I think the job of marketing is even harder now.
An entire organization needs to embody trust. It was just a key point. I want to make sure we accentuate that. Keep going, Kayla.
But I think also, like, trust is how you engage with brands, right? And with the proliferation of experience, we touched on this before, but that has to be something that we carry through the entire engagement. And it really leans back on data and insight and information as to how you take action on that, right? From a marketing perspective, show me you know me. I've given you all my votes. I watch YouTube. I click into LinkedIn. I follow, Instagram. You should know that as a brand, as a marketer, you should understand that about me and be consistent in how you deliver that message and those opportunities across those channels.
Show me you know me.
Show me you know me.
That's one to remember. So, Naresh, let me put a myth number 4 in front of you. Digital ad spend is subject to a totally transparent process. Agree or don't agree?
Well, I'll say that this is the North Star that every marketer would like to achieve. Transparency in the supply chain is priority for every marketer, and they strive to get visibility into end-to-end process as much as they can. However,
but here comes the but, people.
Yeah.
I hear a but coming.
Yeah, exactly. The reality is the media buying and selling ecosystem is not waste-proof, and only a portion of that spend reaches to the end. So let me share some stats. So a study conducted by PwC shows that 51% of the spend makes it to the publishers as networking media spend. And the rest of
15%?
51%. So almost half of that, right? And the rest is lost to the supply chain. So you can imagine how much is kind of the wastage in the supply chain process. Another metric to think about is also the 15% of advertising spend is unattributable across the supply chain. In some scenarios, we observe that it's even as high as 86%. That's a lot, right? And the third, only 26% of spend ends as an ad viewed by the consumer. So only 26% of the spend, right? So that's That's significant, right? And as you can imagine, there is plenty of opportunity to improve. In my views, brands must adopt data-driven practices to plan and measure effectiveness of their marketing spend.
All right, time's almost out on that. Us, I can't believe it. We're moving into myth number 5, the coup de grace. We want to help people understand practically what does it take to build trust. And the myth that I think we all live under is that it takes years to build trust, and every enterprise or every individual is focused on their next 90-day cycle, or maybe it's, if they're lucky, it's the full year that they're looking up against. Is it worth it? It takes years to build trust.
Nope, I got it. 1, 2, 3, right here. 1, be accountable, right? Marketers, be accountable. Make sure you match your messaging to the mission of the brand. Not hard, right? 2, be consistent. All of those channels means interactions, means how you show up. Don't be different in each channel. Understand who you're talking to. And 3rd, my favorite, GYDGT. Get your data game together. That means you can't build trust looking through a keyhole. That means you need to really understand the whole interaction that you are having with consumers, with segments, and bring that together for the organization to take action on.
I love your points, Caitlin, but I think your acronym game needs some work. I don't know if that one's going to stick.
I need to create an acronym really quick. Let me try this. All right, 1, transparency, right? Along the consumer journey, whether it's personalizing the experience, discovery, or real-time updates after purchase. You want to keep your customers, you got to understand the things that matter to them. So this goes back to my initial point of just being trust, meaning different things to different customers. So 1, transparency. 2, meaningful content, right, that answers their questions. You know what I mean? This can be through robust PDPs, FAQs, or even communities that, help with engaging topics where the consumers can learn a little bit more about the topics that they care about, and then do this with a community of folks that they trust, right? And then finally, show consumers how you're using their data. Be collaborative with them. Give them the visibility and the value exchange for how their data is being used, and allow them to have more of a say in how, possible monetization opportunities. So my acronym is going to be transparency, meaningful, and collaborative. That all helps to instill trust.
Love that. Good stuff, Michael. Asking for a friend. What's a PDP?
A PDP, your product detail page.
Yeah, makes sense. Hey, Naresh, anything to add?
Yeah, I think let's think it from a consumer perspective too. So let's put ourselves in the consumer shoe and, think about really what role trust plays in our everyday decision making, right? Keep it that simple, right? And you will find that is central to our decision, no matter what's the dollar value involved. And it's not always about the financial factors, but equally important or even more important factors such as our experiences with a brand, right? So consumer trust can have a direct relation to their decisions in relation to their relationship with your brand, right? And as consumers, we are living in the era of choices, and consumers have abundance of choices available. They won't wait for you. You will need to act fast and proactively take necessary actions, as simple as establish transparency with your customers. For example, what data you are collecting from them, for what purpose, and how do you protect it from misuse, right? It's pretty simple from that perspective, but it's very important for consumer. Another thing to consider is build a trust steering committee, something internal to the organization, right? And hold your leaders accountable, right? Third can be clear.
A trust steering committee.
Trust steering committee.
One of the ideas of the day, Naresh.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to all 3 of you for your insights. I've learned just from the last 15 minutes here with you all, and that makes it a great day already. I'll just close with saying this. I don't know, we've dropped the word trust 60, 70 times by now probably, and that's because we really believe that it is a meaningful concept in marketing and designing great experiences for, like we said, all your stakeholders, not just your customers, but also your employees, your suppliers, your investors, and so forth. And so we as PwC are putting our money where our mouth is, so to speak. We're investing $300 million. That's 3 with 8 zeros in building capabilities around trust for our clients. And one piece of evidence related to that is that we've actually started up a new Trust Leadership Institute. And so we're inviting our clients to participate in these forums that we're putting together by the Trust Leadership Institute so that they can actually not just embrace the idea of trust being important to their business, but actually to learn and together collaborate to develop pragmatic steps that they can take to enhance their stance as it relates to trust. So with that, we'll close it out. Enjoy the rest of Summit, and hope you got something out of this session. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. That was great. I'm super excited to be joined by a dear friend and the former CIO of Global Delivery at the Coca-Cola Company, Ann Carver, today. Appreciate you making the time. I know you've been at the forefront of digitizing the front office across the organizations you worked in. Maybe we just dive right in. Just curious to kind of get your thoughts. You've always been advocating about growth through digital. Can you elaborate more on what you mean by that?
Thanks, Samrat. I'm really happy to be here. And I am really passionate about growth through digital. And that's because digital capabilities figure so prominently into any company's strategic plans these days. And that's because customers expect it. And, traditionally in the past, technology efforts have been largely focused around internal processes and streamlining those processes, what I would call digitizing the enterprise. But now increasingly, everyone is seeing the opportunities for growth. So how technology can be used to attract new customers and to grow the ones that you already have, offering new channels and improving customer experience, and offering new products and services that are inherently digital. So that's what I mean. And I think it's a super exciting opportunity and a key part of most companies' strategic plans these days.
That's excellent. But what do you see as some of the main barriers for organizations to digitize and transform the way they interact with their consumers, with their customers, and deliver on that engaging customer journey?
Yeah, I would say to begin with, the foundation has to be right. And today that means cloud. And making the decision as an organization to invest to be a cloud-enabled organization, not just for productivity, but also for speed and agility. I think many companies still struggle with that. The other thing I would say is that technology alone or the technology in a vacuum won't do much. It's really important to have that customer focus and agile cross-functional product teams with the right mix of skills and people that really understand the customer and they're seeking what the customer needs from a standpoint of empathy and compassion. And I think those things, sometimes tend to be overlooked in organizations, but it's the two together that really are fundamental building blocks.
Many CEOs, chief marketing officers, chief revenue officers we talk to also express their priorities to drive revenue growth through digital transformation. What advice or recommendations would you give to them on the practical steps to transform their marketing initiatives?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I would say first that the most important thing is to be really clear about what you want to accomplish and how you're going to measure and track that. And I think most organizations really want to attract more customers that lead to more purchases that are profitable and to be able to do so in an efficient and effective way. And so some practical suggestions might be to optimize and digitize the end-to-end marketing workflows for your internal marketers and your marketing agencies to make those processes easier and faster. I think that's one thing that's super important. Secondly, on measuring, defining the core metrics, which is likely going to cross domains beyond marketing, but really important to start, and you can adjust it, but to measure and track that and not be afraid to shut down things that are not working. And then the third thing I would say is to make customer experiences seamless. And that includes things like every time you have a marketing message, try to have a call to action or a path to purchase. The obvious things like log on and registration and those kind of things as well. And then just, choice and interoperability between the various channels. Those are some practical things I would offer.
I like where you went, because I think in some ways the core purpose of marketing is about building trust, right? So I guess maybe a follow-on question on that. How do you build trust with customers? As a marketer, we obviously want to acquire first-party information about the customers' preferences, their daily journeys, and oftentimes customers and consumers are not willing to give you their personal information because they don't trust the brand yet. So how do you bridge the gap and establish that trust and build a really trusted, genuine relationship with the consumer?
That is a really important challenge, and it's a real challenge. And I'd say that the quick answer is to show up consistently in a credible way and offer a meaningful value exchange. Some ways to do that beyond what's obviously expected, having a great product or service at a fair price, would be to give your customers a reason to be proud to be your customers. I think ESG factors are becoming more and more important to customers and investors, and things like what you're doing to protect and improve the environment, how you're advocating for underrepresented groups, even how you're protecting customer data. All of those things are becoming really important because I think more and more people really want to feel good about the companies that they're supporting and doing business with. So I think that's really important.
I love that. I think all spot on. And I think to your point, at the core of it is a value exchange that, it's how we build trust. So maybe just kind of, since we have you, and you have always been at the cutting edge of, what's happening in both the marketing as well as the broader technology ecosystem, what are some of the emerging trends or technologies that you see as important to marketers to track, and why?
Well, there's so many emerging technologies that are coming together to form the metaverse. And maybe an obvious answer, but I think that one's really exciting. And I think I can't wait to see the way that unfolds over the next, coming years, 5 to 10 years. Because I think the opportunities are limitless. I mentioned before about, offering experiences, but just think about the implications that would mean for things like education. And of course, through the pandemic, we've all seen what remote learning is like. But when you combine that with a 3D immersive experience, education that traditionally has been accepted as, must be hands-on, I think that might change. So, how mechanics are trained, or even how medical professionals are trained. That would be an interesting application, I think.
And thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure, a real privilege. Thank you so much for your time. I'm really excited, and I'm sure these insights will be extremely valuable to everybody hearing this. Thank you.
Happy to do it. Thank you.